of Commissioned Agents for International Recruitment Part 2. As a reminder, you can view the recording for Part 1 by going to our website. I'll share a link to the direct archive URL for you in just a moment here. I'd like to take a moment to just kind of let you know how this works. We are recording the webinar, so you can always view this afterwards if you happen to miss something or you want to share it with a colleague. But in the meantime, if you want to interact with the presenters, you can ask questions in the chat window at the bottom of your screen at any time. We will be answering any and all questions that we can get to following the main presentation. So we reserve typically the last 15 minutes or so for questions and answers. I'd like to introduce you to our presenters now. We have Gabriela Zelaya, who's the Global Education Team Leader at the U.S. Commercial Service in San Jose/Silicon Valley at the U.S. Department of Commerce. And then we also have Fred Bohl, EducationUSA Branch Chief at the Bureau of Education and Cultural Affairs for the U.S. Department of State. And then our moderator is our own Julia Finocchi, who's an Associate Director with us here at ACRO International. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it off to Gabriela since we have a good amount of material to get through. Gabriela?
Thank you very much, Mike and Julia and ACRO for organizing this webinar. Today I will talk a little bit about the history of the U.S. Commercial Service, the mission and vision of the International Trade Administration, and take a deep dive into the breadth of services provided by the U.S. Commercial Service as we look to support you, the U.S. education sector. I will also highlight our collaboration across the board with organizations that support work with recruitment agents, our collaboration with Study State Consortia, and State Department's EducationUSA. And I'll also present on a national framework we at ITA are working on to assist the industry to compete globally. The U.S. Commercial Service was founded in 1980 and is the trade promotion arm of the U.S. Department of Commerce's International Trade Administration. ITA is tasked with strengthening the competitiveness of U.S. industry, promote trade and investment, and ensure fair trade through enforcement of trade laws and agreements. ITA's goal is to improve the global business environment and help U.S. organizations compete at home and abroad. The mission of ITA is to create prosperity by strengthening the international competitiveness of U.S. industry, promoting trade and investment, and ensuring fair trade and compliance with trade laws and agreements. Similarly to ITA's mission, ITA's vision is to foster economic growth and prosperity through global trade. The U.S. Commercial Service has a network of 140 offices across 80 countries where we have trade specialists that cover education in 100 cities in the United States with an office in each state. Our mission is to promote the export of U.S. goods and services and support job creation through exports. We work with federal government agencies, associations, consortia, and other partners to support this effort. We consider ourselves your gateway to help connect you to relevant organizations and federal government agencies. Our clients are intensive English programs, high schools, boarding schools, academies, community colleges, four-year colleges, and universities, graduate programs, education service providers, as well as education products and technology providers. As you know, international education has an important economic impact to the United States. When an international student comes to the United States and pays tuition, fees, books, housing, they generate educational service exports. And international students also benefit a number of other sectors, like the travel and tourism, hospitality, finance, and health industries. In 2017, the education industry generated over $42.4 billion in U.S. service exports, according to the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis in their assessment provided in June of 2018, making education the sixth largest services export for the United States. International students supported over 450,000 U.S. jobs, according to NAFTA. In comparison with other service sector exports, you can see the industries above and below education service exports. Within the U.S. Commercial Service, a global team of trade specialists with education industry expertise work closely with U.S.-based educational institutions and education companies to assist and offer customized programs and services abroad to foster these educational service exports. The U.S. Commercial Service is a business development operation building a recruitment pipeline and partnership channels for U.S. organizations through the various program offerings unique to the education sector. The 4 verticals where the global education team focuses resources are educational institution pipeline and partnership channel creation, educational state consortia with tie-in to travel tourism, development and promotion, as well as education IT, MOOCs, and research and development. It makes sense for you to connect with the U.S. Commercial Service if you are in the admissions office of an educational institution, in the export controls office, recruiting for a pathways program, executive training, summer programs, or looking to develop an educational state consortia. Connect with Commercial Service if you are an educational association supporting the promotion of U.S. international education or looking for research and development opportunities with foreign institutions. You are encouraged to reach out and meet with education specialists closest to your location and discuss your institution's global recruitment strategy and how Commercial Service can help guide you in that planning. Commercial Service can provide counseling on the latest education market information and develop programming to fit your recruitment strategy. Some of the tools we use in our counseling is the International Expansion Blueprint. The IEB, as we call it, is just one of the ways we can provide the information you need to set priorities and plan your international outreach. This tool will deliver an assessment of gaps in your recruitment strategy and recommendations to take you to the next level in your international engagement. The U.S. Commercial Service also develops market intelligence on the education sector and makes it available through the country commercial guides as well as the Education and Training Services resource guides. The Top Markets Report published annually, and we also develop market research that is customized at the client's request. We organize an array of programs to assist educational institutions with finding partners overseas, to include virtual education fairs, education trade missions, single school promotions, and pre-screened face-to-face meetings. We will also partner with education trade fair organizers to facilitate meetings with students. We will work with EducationUSA, IIE, ISN, Linden, among others. We assist with and offer customized programs and services abroad to foster educational service exports. Some examples are the International Market Check, or IMC, which is an initial assessment of the market potential of a client's product or service, in your case, your program, and this gathers feedback from industry participants overseas. The International Partner Search, or IPS, is a personalized overseas search for interested and qualified partners in specific countries on behalf of a U.S. organization. Commercial specialists prepare reports of up to 5 potential prospects that have expressed interest in a client's product or service. We also have the Gold Key Service, or GKS, which is they're pre-screened appointments to meet with prospective recruitment partners, government and industry officials, or U.S. Embassy officials. In order to help determine whether an overseas company or individual is also a suitable partner, Commercial Service can conduct an international company profile, which is a report on the foreign partner that includes management details, financial condition, creditworthiness, experience conducting recruitment, or promoting programs. Also, a part of what is an inherently governmental function that we do is support U.S. educational institutions and companies with advocacy assistance through the Advocacy Center in Washington, D.C. The Advocacy Center ensures that sales of U.S. products and services have the best possible chance of competing abroad. For example, if a university is bidding for a project, the U.S. government can communicate a message to a foreign government or government-owned corporation on behalf of their commercial interests, typically in a competitive bid. We can also tackle market access issues for U.S. schools or companies. We also help arrange single school promotions at the U.S. embassies, consulates, or hotel locations. A single school promotion is a reception where commercial service invites targeted industry contacts on U.S. embassy letterhead to join and learn about your program. The U.S. Commercial Service helps with the logistics of the event, invites attendees, foreign media. This service is also recommended for program launches, networking receptions with potential partners, or as a recruitment seminar. Here you have a glimpse of what is one of our signature programs, the virtual education fairs, which we offer multiple times throughout the fiscal year. This gives an opportunity for up to 6 U.S. schools to present via WebEx technology to a group of recruitment partners at an embassy or consulate overseas. As part of this service, we provide a welcome kit with updated education market information, as well as the profiles of the potential partners that are participating in the program. We have also added a virtual reality element to this program where we request schools to provide their own 360-degree videos to create an immersive experience for the recruitment partners overseas to experience the campus, view the classrooms, and visit the dorms and key locations on the school campuses. You can also stay informed by receiving the International Education Connection newsletter developed by the Global Education team and learn about partnership opportunities through our education trade leads included in the newsletter and posted on our Global Education team website. You can also contact your local education specialist to be included on the distribution list. I would like to highlight our TradeWinds Indo-Pacific Forum and Mission to India, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka, taking place May 6th through 10th, 2019. TradeWinds is the largest annual U.S. government-led trade mission, which will bring up to 100 U.S. businesses and organizations to the region. We welcome U.S. universities and education providers to attend this very important event. Again, here, the commercial service develops market intelligence on the education sector and makes it available through the country commercial guides as well as the Education and Training Services Resource Guide and the Education Top Markets Report. These are published annually, as well as we develop the customized market research for our clients at a client's request. But you can access the Education and Training Services Resource Guide at the upcoming NAFSA annual conference. So here I'd like to highlight the commercial service and its internal requirements. So some of the requirements are that we report written impact narratives, short for WINS, that links our assistance with your success. So our success is your success. When you recruit international students as a result of our services or you sign partnership agreements, this is what would trigger a written impact narrative or a WIN. These WINs indicate to our internal stakeholders that we are completing our mission accordingly. We capture these WINs from feedback that you provide after you engage in a program with the commercial service. We also note an estimated dollar amount for tuition fees and jobs supported or created as a result of your success. It is important that you also respond to customer satisfaction surveys after you engage in a program with us. Those are sent out automatically to you after a service. We can also capture your success through nomination for an Export Achievement Certificate or Presidential E-Award for your sustained services export. Here is an example of a WIN with University of Mount Union. We supported their partnership development efforts in 2017 and 2018. They worked with our commercial service office and took advantage of CS programs to include counseling, market research, webinars, as well as matchmaking services provided through the virtual education fairs with Hong Kong, India, and Vietnam. As a result, they signed agreements with recruitment agents in these markets. The global team also supports the creation of education state consortia across the United States. The first Study State Consortia was created in 1999, with Study Washington and Study Oregon being the first one. Commercial Service has supported the creation of now over 35 consortia, and we sit on the board to provide counseling on recruitment and promotion strategies. Consortia are nonprofit, membership-based organizations designed to highlight the state as a study destination and inform on the array of education opportunities in a state. In addition, the U.S. Commercial Service provides programming around NAFSA's annual conference to include the creation of a USA Study Destination booth as part of the official USA Pavilion developed in coordination with the State Department. We also provide pre-scheduled meetings with foreign partners under the Educator to Educator program and Showtime, which is counseling provided to U.S. educational institutions on market opportunities by our commercial service education specialists attending the conference. Among other items, Joan Conlian, our National Consortia Liaison, develops best practice calls to address a number of topics of interest to the consortia. Historically, the U.S. Commercial Service has supported U.S. educational institutions in seeking marketing partners or recruitment agents in countries overseas. We've seen this as a commercial element of the industry and a way for U.S. educational institutions to increase their brand awareness and program promotion 24 hours with someone on the ground in a market. In many countries, recruitment agents are the norm by which students and their families seek services to facilitate their educational institution selection. In other industries, it is very typical for U.S. companies to contract a local distributor to help with distributing and marketing their products and services. In a way, recruitment agents serve this purpose for the education sector. Thus, the Commercial Service has made recruitment agents an integral part of the services provided to U.S. educational institutions. You will see that agents make up the contacts that we include in our Gold Key service, international partner search, virtual education fairs, and the like. We've also sought out and maintained strategic partnerships with organizations that foster the development and understanding of partnerships between U.S. educational institutions and vetted, pre-screened recruitment agencies, like the American International Recruitment Council, or AIRC, and the International Consultants for Education and Fairs, ICEF. We have also engaged in strategic partnerships at the ITA level with recruitment agents like ELS Education Services and developed an education trade mission to India and Nepal in 2017 with ELS. The U.S. Commercial Service collaborates with the State Department's EducationUSA when possible. We deliver joint counseling to U.S. schools while visiting abroad. We deliver joint presentations on government resources to support U.S. schools, and we will collaborate during some of our events overseas. We want to make sure you are receiving support from the whole of government while abroad. Increasingly, trade and investment opportunities for U.S. educational institutions and entities is the top priority at the Department of Commerce. Supporting U.S. educational institutions and entities to be competitive in the global education market and working with partners in foreign governments is key to moving these goals forward. We recognize that the United States is facing growing competition from not only English-speaking markets, but from non-English-speaking markets that are offering degrees taught entirely in English, and markets that moving from being primarily sourcing markets to becoming providers of international education in their own right. At ITA, we have developed a national strategy designed to engage public and private partners to develop promotion, recruitment, and market entry strategies that will allow the United States to compete against other countries that are actively engaged in attracting international students as part of their own overall national economic development strategies. we also recognize that meaningful discussions that impact educational policies across bureaus and support the industry's interests globally are critical. As of a year ago, in an effort to address challenges and respond to industry, the U.S. Commercial Service Global Education Team developed the U.S. International Education Stakeholder Roundtable, where industry, various bureaus at State Department and Homeland Security participate in these discussions. Nevertheless, we recognize there isn't a formal forum within government that addresses the unique challenges faced by the U.S. international education industry and that assists to furthering their trade goals to advance their global competitiveness. So in order to institutionalize our efforts, as a first step, the Commercial Service Global Education Team, in partnership with industry and analysis, have developed a framework for an advisory board to identify, examine, and advise on current and emerging issues impacting the U.S. competitiveness in educational service exports worldwide. The advisory board will strengthen the United States' competitive position as the world's preeminent destination for education and training. The functions of an advisory board to support the U.S. international education services sector, we understand, cannot be replicated or performed by any other U.S. government agency alone because the issues addressed are complex and span across many U.S. government bureaus. So the advisory board envisioned will consist of an average of 20 members appointed by the Secretary of Commerce to serve a 2-year period. Commerce will actively seek executive-level candidates with experience across a variety of areas within educational service, the educational service sector, and that are based throughout the United States. It is anticipated that the advisory board will meet twice a year and will have an option of developing subcommittees and with specific functions. So we look forward to formalizing this advisory board in fiscal year 2019 to expand federal engagement in support of educational service exports. We're also working with the Study State Consortia to build a national nonprofit organization to represent the study states and support their promotional efforts. This national platform will convene Study State Consortia from across the United States for the purpose of promoting the United States as a study destination for international students to live, work, and study. It will provide a national platform for the Study State Consortia to address challenges faced by increased global competition in the international education sector and to foster economic growth through research, innovation, entrepreneurship, workforce development, and the attraction of foreign direct investment. In response to the need to engage more efficiently and effectively with our contacts and partners overseas, we are developing a working group structure that will help amplify the importance of U.S. international education abroad and assist with building strong connections in markets. The working groups will serve as a sounding board for ideas and the implementer of strategies to promote U.S. international education. The working group will include business entities, educational institutions, trade associations, nonprofits from respective communities, to make sure we leverage their interest in building strong connections to the U.S. international education sector. And here's a listing of suggested members. I do want to highlight an upcoming webinar that we are going to be hosting, which is focused on the U.S. Department of Commerce resources for U.S. educational institutions. And we have a great lineup of speakers from ITA, as well as the Bureau of Industry and Security, the Patent and Trademark Office, and the Bureau of Economic Analysis. For any additional sources of information that you may be seeking from commercial service, you can visit our website. Here you can see our URL. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone for listening today, and thank you, Mike and Julia. And I'll pass the mic to Fred Bull.
Okay, thank you very much to Julia and ACRO and to Gabriella. It's great to have this opportunity to talk about Education USA and the commercial service and how we fit together and try to complement our support for U.S. higher education. We have support from the highest levels of the Department of State for Education USA and for our outreach both to students all over the world and to support accredited U.S. higher education institutions. The Secretary's message is very strong, talking about the world-class education that American campuses has to offer and about our desire to promote you all as effectively and vigorously as possible. You can see that educational diplomacy is an essential element of U.S. foreign policy for us. It's clear that bringing students to the United States is not just something that relates to our economic well-being, but is fundamental to ensuring that American students are able to compete in an increasingly competitive global marketplace. Many of them will not have the opportunity to study abroad, and hosting international students is a way for them to understand the world. It brings the world to their campuses. It equips them for skills to work across languages, cultures, and borders, and of course builds and sustains our economy, as well as, of course, fostering mutual understanding and showing students around the world that we are sharing one of our best resources with them, our higher education institutions, and that we want them to benefit from this personally, professionally, academically, and we want their home countries to benefit as well. You can see that we, of course, still host the largest number of students. We host over 1 million for the 3rd year in a row. And as Gabriela indicated, the economic impact is huge also in terms of jobs, over 450,000 jobs that are linked to this. But global competition is increasing. You can see on this chart that between 2001 and 2017 alone, the number of globally mobile students moved from 2.1 million to 4.6 million, more than doubled, and that is also, it's going to keep increasing according to all projections that we read. Likewise, you'll see on this chart that many of the countries represented have changed. They are both, they're all kinds of countries, including many of our friends and allies, as well as others. And that is also a factor in thinking about, of course, what students are being exposed to. Are they, when they engage in international education? We have an interest in seeing students learn about critical thinking, understand democracy, democratic values, the rule of law. Those are all fundamental to the American way of life, and we're very conscious that an international experience should involve exposure to those crucial academic and other issues. But we also know that there has been a decline in new student enrollments that began already in 2015-16 and has continued to the last year, where we saw a 6.6% decline from the previous year. The good news is that we know that capacity in American higher education is huge. We remain the top destination and brand, and we have a lot of capacity to host more students. 70% of all international students study at only 300 institutions, and those being in Texas, California, most of them in Texas, California, or New York. So we know that compared to many of our competitors, we have a lot of room to grow. We have a lot of great institutions, and Education USA's whole purpose is to promote all accredited institutions equally and to do so in as creative a way as we can. Of course, we try and link our promotion to successful State Department programs related to exchanges, such as the well-known Fulbright program, but also many other programs, the Gilman scholarships, Humphrey fellowships, the Young Leaders of the Americas initiative, teacher exchanges. There are many programs that we try to link messages related to international education and the value of studying in the United States. At Education USA, we are the Department of State's global network of educational advising centers that promotes U.S. higher education to audiences abroad. I want to emphasize that all of our basic services are free of charge. That is both for international students who are looking at studying in the United States, as well as for American colleges and universities that are looking to profile themselves overseas and to reach out to students all over the world. We essentially do two things, and I sort of hinted at that. We have two audiences: students who are looking at studying in the United States and want to learn more about the United States, as well as American accredited higher education institutions, more than 4,700 of them. And what we are looking to do is to promote the right fit between an individual and an institution. We are looking at both of your interests. Our advisors will never tell a student where to go, but try to give students who we call advisees the tools to find the right institution where she or he can succeed professionally, academically, and personally. That is the way that we foster lifelong positive relationships with the United States. It's the way we benefit our institutions and the way we benefit American students here at home as well. We want to help universities internationalize and to come up with recruitment and retention plans. We try to talk about the need for successful integration of international students to be part of what universities are thinking about when they host students, because again, that integration ensures that they are in fact getting all they can out of an experience in the United States, and that we are creating those lifelong positive relationships that are so crucial to benefiting from American higher education. The Education USA network is made up of 435 centers around the world where we have over 550 advisors in over 182 countries. It's a little different. The slide says 181. It's actually 182. And you can see that our centers are located at many different places. They're located at Fulbright commissions, at bilateral centers, at universities and libraries, at NGOs, sometimes even at government ministries, as well as other places around the world. And I should add, of course, many are at U.S. embassies and consulates. And so we have a range of partners who are also engaged in supporting American higher education. That means that not only do our specific advising centers support this, but many partners around the world who leverage what we do to ensure that our message is being passed of welcome to students, and also of the resources that Education USA has for students and for institutions, so that people know where to go when they're looking for information. Here is a map of our centers around the world, and you can see that we are absolutely global. And part of the reason, of course, is that this again goes back and it relates to diplomacy. We need to send a strong message on behalf of the American people that we want everybody around the world to benefit from one of our best resources, American higher education, and the quality of U.S. colleges and universities. In 2018, our advisors had over 15 million contacts around the world, many of those in person, others via email or online, by phone. Our advisors work in different ways. They have to be creative, of course, according to local and regional contexts. They have to find the right way to reach out and to help institutions to reach out, and that's not the same in many places. In West Africa, for example, they are much more present on the radio than they are in other places, whereas, for example, in other parts of the world, things happen via apps or completely online via our website. Our advisors themselves are experts in their local, in their countries and in their localities. They are trained through Education USA to guide students through what we call the 5 steps to U.S. study. So they take up issues about how to identify the right institution, how to think about financing studies, how to think about how to narrow down what institutions they're looking at, things like visas, questions they have about the application process, questions they have about the arrival process. What's it like when I get to campus? How do I make things meet? And also questions about what happens while I'm in the United States and when I'm ready to go home. Our centers, we have 3 different kinds of centers. So the map you saw with all those dots, in our global guide, you can see the specific one, which ones are which kind. Comprehensive services will generally have more than one advisor and will offer a full range of services for students and American colleges and universities. Standard centers are basically the same, but slightly smaller. They have at least one advisor, and reference centers don't have an advisor at all. They are essentially a collection of reference materials and books, probably an internet connection, and staff that is at least able to direct students to EducationUSA resources that will help them in detail, and to a live advisor if they need one. We are looking at many of our centers at the possibility of expanding into virtual advising. We do that already for Iran and for students in Syria, and we are looking to possibilities to expand that. Our in-center activities for students include, of course, access to information, to catalogs, to testing guides, to guides about schools. They will have access to a computer and the internet, of course, so that they can begin their process on research. We have both group advising and one-on-one advising, as well as many presentations, of course, by visiting U.S. higher education institutions. And that's something that we encourage greatly, is for institutions, when you are doing your outreach, to write to the EducationUSA Center where you want to go and to make a presentation there, to talk about your institution and to talk about general issues that students face as they decide to apply to an American institution. And I'll give you an example. Many students around the world, for example, have never received a letter of recommendation. We hear sometimes from students that they are not used to approaching a professor or someone that they feel is kind of distant from them, because that's not the way it's done in their country. And our advisors will find ways to help them through that process so that they can submit a recommendation letter. Writing essays can be much the same thing. A personal essay that in some places might look self-serving, to one of our schools might look like very good and appropriate self-promotion. And so our advisors are trying to translate our system for students as they apply, and we encourage U.S. Academic representatives who visit our centers to talk about these issues, because whether a student winds up going to your institution or to a different one, it's always good for the United States. And so our aim in the end is to make sure that students are choosing to come to the United States and that they know how to do so. We give pre-departure orientations, oftentimes working with schools to do that. Many times a bunch of schools will come and do pre-departure orientations together in our centers. And we also, of course, have cohort advising or special advising groups, which we have different names for, competitive college clubs. Many of you will have heard of the EducationUSA Opportunity Funds program, which funds the upfront application costs for students who are so academically gifted but so materially disadvantaged that they don't have the means to pay even for standardized tests or the ability to apply. So that's a program that we're very proud of and that we hope to build out. So we are trying to translate all of these issues for international students. Our system, the application process, standardized tests to make sure that they can take them, essay writing, financial aid and scholarships, as well as the visa process. We do this via all kinds of outreach to high schools and higher education institutions, college fairs, which can be virtual and in person, both virtual advising and webinars. And I'll talk later, we have a series of 12 webinars a year which are specifically geared toward U.S. higher education, toward U.S. colleges and universities. They happen at the end of every month. The next one will be March 26, which will focus on recruiting international students in Europe and Eurasia. We will have our three regional educational advising coordinators, or REACs, as well as our program officer, who's based here in Washington, D.C., for the Europe and Eurasia region, talk about tips, latest issues, latest possibilities for cooperation, and hot issues in EUR. And so I hope that you will all sign up for that. All of the information is on our website, and of course, all of that is free of charge. What we try to do for U.S. higher education, for U.S. colleges and universities, is to add to your ability to go out and recruit successfully. So our centers aim to provide guidance on recruitment and retention in a particular context, information about local education systems, assistance in contacting local educational institutions and governments, and they also, our advisors also can verify whether schools overseas are recognized and accredited in their local systems. As I said, we hope that many of you will come and give presentations in our centers. We hope that you will attend Education USA regional forums, which happen in 2 regions per year, and we go through, we divide the world into 6 regions, so every 3 years we cover the whole world, and as well as the dozens of local and regional fairs and tours that Education USA sponsors and organizes in all world regions, which are well attended. We are doing both regional tours as well as some specialized ones, for example, focused on community colleges or on things like LLM degrees. We do Facebook Live and interactive presentations, as I mentioned, the webinar series, which happens every month, as well as interactive programs for students, where we are trying to reach out to students through our centers and generally to make sure that they have the information about how to apply and how to make U.S. higher education accessible to them. We put these on YouTube, so they are accessible at any time to anyone interested. Of course, this is the subject of, part of the subject of our webinar, Education USA's move to ensure that we are able to work with all institutions and organizations and individuals that advance opportunities for qualified international students to study in the United States. And this, of course, includes commission-based agents. We want to make sure that we are in a position to really reach out to and leverage everybody who has the same goal of promoting U.S. higher education and facilitating students coming to the United States. We do, of course, we have not changed anything in terms of our advising centers' adherence to strict ethical standards, and we are completely focused on promoting the right fit between the individual student and the institution. We want to make sure that that is very clear, and so our advisors are very focused on what we would call matching students with institutions where they are best positioned for success, right? We want to make sure that that's the case. And that said, we know that there are many institutions in the United States, an increasing number of institutions, who do reach out through agents, and we want to make sure that we are supporting those institutions as far as their choice in using agents. So agents will have access to relevant activities at our centers. So for example, if there is an activity that is related to promoting U.S. higher education specific schools, agents who do represent those schools will have access to those programs because we want to make sure that they are, every school that has chosen to reach out is able to do so through Education USA. We will do so, of course, as capacity allows. So we are going to make sure that we're prioritizing accredited U.S. colleges and universities. And for most events, what will most likely happen, this will have to be done on a case-by-case basis at our advising centers as they organize events. But many will, because of great interest, want to ensure that accredited schools are given the first option to register accredited colleges and universities, and after a specific date may then make events open to other parties who are promoting U.S. higher education. I'm happy to answer questions about that afterwards, but we are convinced that this is a positive step ahead for Education USA and for American higher education, and that without changing our focus on the student's best interest and on promoting all 4,700 accredited institutions equally, we are able to do better at ensuring that we are reaching out to the sector much more holistically and much more comprehensively. One of the big things we have done is we have put all of our, made most of our materials, in fact all of them, publicly available. So the whole sector has access to the Education USA Global Guide, as well as to our country fact sheets, which give an overview of educational issues in every country, and which of course are free of charge. The Education USA offices, of course, around the world are eager to connect with all of you. These are ways for you to reach out, serve as an expert on different issues, engage alumni to represent your institution locally. We are happy to work with them. Come to our fairs and forums, send recruitment materials. We will put them out, absolutely, and attend our forums and regional forums, which are great opportunities to interact with colleagues and with Education USA advisors from around the world. Social media is big. Please take advantage of it. And if you create a profile on our website, you can, free of charge, advertise opportunities specifically designed for international students, such as if you have a scholarship or a special tuition arrangement for international students, even if they're for students from very specific countries. Education USA publishes the Open Doors Report. We fund the publication of the Open Doors Report, which is published by the Institute of International Education. And this, of course, is designed to ensure that people have the information they need about recruiting international students and what the landscape looks like. Our Education USA Global Guide is free and available on the web. It is published every year and is a fantastic resource for colleges and universities as you look at how to internationalize and how to recruit around the world. It has profiles of countries, trends, country-specific opportunities, economic factors, everything that our experts know and can express about opportunities and developments relating to international students. I mentioned the fact sheets. They are for almost every country in the world and also freely available both individually and as compendia on our website. And they tell you in great detail what we think about opportunities in specific countries to recruit international students, talk about government contacts, scholarships, factors that you will want to consider when you reach out and recruit. On our website, as mentioned, you will be able to find advising centers and reach out to them, speak to advisors, submit opportunities that you have for students on scholarships and financial aid. I encourage everybody to create a login and to tap into that resource. I said earlier that we are conscious of the fact that a large number of international students in the United States study at very few institutions. In the U.S., international students make up about 5.3% of all students in higher education, and it does appear that there's a lot of room to grow. You can see where international students study according to this map. This is from the Open Doors report, and that there are higher concentrations in some states than in others. We at EducationUSA want to make sure schools are conscious of the possibility to recruit and that they help one another recruit where possible. It's very important that we as Americans come together to promote higher education, and EducationUSA has begun a series of seminars around the country, the first of which was held at the University of Wisconsin in Madison on January 25th this year, which was focused on helping institutions think about how they can recruit more students, greater numbers of students, and how we can reach institutions that are not hosting students but could host. What materials can we give them? How can we facilitate that? How can we work together? It was a very successful event for us, and we are looking to host our second such event in a different region of the country, also in partnership with an institution, a college or university, most likely this summer, with another one coming in the fall. And I would like to thank, we had a lot of support for the seminar in Wisconsin from the Department of Commerce, from the Department of Homeland Security, and from many associations, including ACRO, NACAC, ACE, ACE, AIRC, and NAFSA. We look forward very much to continuing these discussions about how we can come together to promote American higher education better and ensure that we are hosting more students wherever possible. In EducationUSA, we're always thinking about the fact that we have to promote 4,700 institutions, many of which are not as well known as others. But yet we know, we are convinced of the amazing opportunities that there are for students all around the United States, and we need to look for ways to translate that message to students around the world. I hope that people will consider attending our fairs and forums. The next one is actually coming up. You can actually still register. It's for the Middle East and North Africa in Casablanca, starting March 26th to the 28th. A great opportunity to get to know the layout if you're thinking about recruiting in the Middle East and North Africa, to meet all of our advisors from the region and to talk about how to recruit, where to recruit, and what the best strategies are. The EducationUSA Forum will take place from July 30th to August 1st in Washington, and there'll be another forum for Asia and the Pacific coming up. We hope that institutions will reach out to families, set goals for their recruitment strategies, and emphasize our welcome and open doors. We in the government know that we need to adopt a whole of agency and government approach, as Gabriela mentioned. We want to undertake a global marketing campaign, and we want to make sure that we are working with everybody who wants to promote U.S. higher education. Our embassies and consulates are focused on outreach, on promoting events, and on making sure that we are taking advantage of every opportunity we have as consulates and embassies around the world to promote U.S. higher education.
Okay, thank you very much, Gabriela and Fred. We really appreciate it. I think we can all agree that really the goal of all educational administrators, particularly here in the United States where we have such a rich offering of institutions, that it really is to match students to institutions and programs where they're going to thrive, not just survive. And that to support standards and strategies in international recruitment would seem to be an approach that we can all agree on in doing this. So we thank you. It's great to know how much is available to institutions and to our international students out there that we offer as part of looking into coming to the United States to study. So this is wonderful. Now we have a few minutes for questions, just a few. So if any of you have questions, please type them into the chat box below, and Michael and I will try to field them to Gabriela or Fred as needed. We did have a question earlier which was asking if the U.S. Commercial Service only worked with accredited institutions. Gabriella, would you like to make any comments on that?
Sure. So we would want to assess on an individual basis, of course, with each institution to see what their case is. But rule of thumb, yes, we do work with appropriately accredited institutions.
Great. Thank you. As you look into typing your questions, I'll just mention a couple of things that ACRO does have coming up. Our annual meeting is at the end of this month, March 31st. In Los Angeles, California. We would love to have you join us. We have more than 200 sessions, roundtables, poster sessions, and workshops there. And both the U.S. Commercial Service and EducationUSA will be there presenting as well, so we are grateful for their participation. It's a great opportunity for you to sort of really engage with colleagues and experts in the field and really enrich your own background in admissions, records, registration. We also have the Summer Institute coming up. This is really the Summer Institute for International Admissions. It's in Arlington, Virginia, July 15th to the 19th. This is a great opportunity for institutions who are looking to really give professional development and training to their staff in the international admissions area. Let's see, any other questions? Michael, do we have any other questions? I cannot see any.
I have not seen any. And I believe we have a hard 3 o'clock stop, so maybe we'll just end slightly early.
Okay. All right. Well, we thank you all for joining us, but we especially thank Gabriella and Fred for taking time from their busy schedule to share this